Starting with a standing position, leaning forward, arms are reaching out, energy through the fingertips. We're going to take 3 breath cycles and an apnea. Preparing to begin, stepping forward into the position, taking the first of your 3 breaths. So exhaling, taking an inhalation, finding the flow of your own breath as you exhale. One more inhalation, and then exhale to empty the lungs. Hold the breath out, relax the stomach, expand the rib cage for your apnea. Holding the apnea briefly and then releasing. For the second position, you're going to rotate the arms inwards so that the fingertips are resting on the hips. Again, it will be 3 breath cycles in this position. So as the fingertips rest on the hips, you lean the body forward and preparing for the first inhalation and exhalation. Finding the flow of your own breath. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty. Hold the breath and take your apnea. So holding the apnea and slowly releasing the apnea, preparing for the next position. So the arms will be raised halfway to chest height for the next position. So you'll take the arms from the start position up halfway and begin the breathing. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty the lungs. Take your apnea, holding the apnea, and when you release the apnea, you can lower the hands back to the starting position, fingertips to hips. In the next position, you're going to take your 3 breath cycles, and with the apnea held, you're going to raise the arms overhead. Preparing, you're going to take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty. Take your apnea and raise the arms up overhead, holding the apnea. And then when you release the apnea, you're going to bend the knees and rest the hands on the legs. So in this position, the arms remain still with the elbows bent out to the side. So bending the knees, resting the arms, and preparing for 3 breaths and an apnea. So exhale, take an inhalation and exhalation. Find the flow of your own breath. One more inhalation. And as you exhale, empty. Take your apnea and holding the apnea. Then you're going to take a gentle inhalation as you allow yourself to come back to the starting position, fingertips to hips. And this time when you take your apnea, you're going to step forward with the right leg and come to a kneeling position. So fingertips on the hips, we're taking the first of 3 breaths. And the second of 3 breaths, inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty the lungs. Take your apnea, step forward with the right leg, bring the back knee to the ground and come to a kneeling position. And for the next position, we're going to stay in this kneeling position and take the arms halfway. So preparing to begin, again 3 breath cycles. We're going to inhale and exhale. Take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty the lungs. Take your apnea. And with the apnea held, take the arms halfway up and exhale. We're going to keep the arms here. Keep that forward lean. Toes are still curled under. In the next one, we're just going to take an apnea in this position. So inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty the lungs completely. So empty and take your apnea. So holding your apnea in this position, And then you're going to release the apnea and bring the fingertips back to the hips. On the next apnea, you're going to raise the arms overhead. So preparing to begin with the first of your breaths, take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation. And we exhale to empty, empty, empty. Empty the lungs. Take your apnea and raise the arms up overhead, holding your apnea. And when you release the apnea, the hands are going to come to the floor. You're going to rest your head on the floor. The arms are still in the same position, elbows pointing out. 3 breath cycles, 1 apnea. So lowering the hands to the floor, resting the head and taking the first inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation, finding the flow of your breath. Inhalation and empty, 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 empty. Take your apnea in this position, holding the apnea and releasing the apnea. So cross the feet, lean back and bring the elbows to the floor, and then you rest the head back on the floor. So you're in a slightly different position with the arms. Crossing the feet, leaning back, you're going to do 3 breath cycles and an apnea. Preparing to begin. Taking an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea. And releasing the apnea. So we're going to come to a seated position next. You're going to cross your heels and sit back on your backside. Again, we're going to take 3 breath cycles and an apnea. So crossing the feet, sitting back on your backside, and you're going to rest your hands on your knees. Begin to take the first inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea, holding the apnea and gently relaxing the stomach. In the next position, we bring the arms halfway. Again, 3 breath cycles and an apnea. Preparing to begin, bringing the arms halfway and taking an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty. Take the apnea. So holding the apnea and relaxing the stomach. So we bring the fingertips to the hips, and in the next one we raise the arms overhead while holding our apnea. Preparing to begin, take the fingertips to the hips, elbows are pointing out to the side. Take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Going with the flow of your own breath as you inhale and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take the apnea and raise the arms overhead. Holding the apnea, lowering the hands down, and you're going to step your heels forward, feet are flexed. You're going to rest your hands on your knees. So this next position, 3 breath cycles and an apnea. So stepping the feet forward, place the hands on the knees, make sure the elbows are pointing out to the side and you're nice and tall. Take an inhalation and exhalation. Again, going with the flow of your own breath as you inhale and exhale. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea, holding the apnea and relaxing the stomach. For the next position, we will take the arms halfway. So keeping that same position, again, 3 breath cycles and an apnea. Preparing by bringing the arms halfway, nice and tall in the spine. Preparing to begin, and take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and empty, 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 empty. Taking your apnea and holding the apnea. And for the next position, you're going to bring the fingertips to the hips. You're going to take your apnea and then raise the arms up overhead. So coming to the fingertip to the hip position, taking an inhalation and exhalation. Your feet are still flexed. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea, raise the arms up overhead. Nice tall spine, holding your apnea and releasing the hands. You're going to just bring yourself to lying down. You raise the arms overhead with the right hand under the left, crossing the right leg over the left. So placing the hands to your side, taking yourself to laying down, reaching the arms straight up overhead. Palms are facing away. The left palm is on the top and you're taking an inhalation and exhalation. We do 3 rounds in an apnea. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and we exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea, holding the apnea and gently relax the stomach. We're going to swap the leg and hand that's on top and repeat this apnea. So 3 rounds in an apnea in this position. Preparing to begin. Take an inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhale to empty, 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 empty the lungs. Take your apnea, holding the apnea in this position, holding and then relax the stomach. Allow yourself to bring the arms back down and come to a seated position as we end this practice.